Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with a review and final diagnosis on the Zero Tolerance 0055. This is the highly anticipated collaboration with Gustavo Cecchini out of Brazil based on his airborne design. I messed that up in the first video. I called it the horsepower. That's one of his other knives and it looks similar, but this is based on his airborne. And it brings to market the SLT flipper tab system, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this is a really exciting knife. I've now had it for a few weeks and used it in a lot of different cutting tasks, and I think I have a pretty good idea of what this knife is in an EDC role and why it's so special. Some of the good, some of the bad, and we'll just get into it right now. So let's go ahead and do as we always do, break it down anatomically. We've got a 3.75 inch blade of S35VN done in a nice heavy stone wash. It's got two grinds on it, so a compound grind. It's got a thinner, more acute flat grind up front, and then a thicker one towards the back. The idea being maybe you could cut things differently based on those grinds. The edge came extremely sharp from ZT. They did a good job with it. It's got an interesting angle going on there right where the grinds meet each other. It is like that on both sides. It's kind of angled forward, if you can see it in the light there. But it functions very well. It'll cut anything from very thin paper to thick wood, or not wood, a rope, and it will do just about anything you need. But I think that this is going to have sort of a limited use in terms of how people EDC it, and that'll sort of be a part of the final diagnosis segment there. But the blade is really nicely done. It's got a beautiful swedge up here, and they did a great job. I like the modified Wharncliffe design there. It allows me to use it against skin and sort of keep the edge of the blade protected so I don't cut anybody, which is different than a regular drop point or something like that. So I do appreciate that. It's got a tiny little sharpening choil, so if you like to get your blade sharp towards the back, you've got a bit of a chance there, maybe. You might hit the scales, but you can take it apart. Speaking of which, Epic Snuggle Bunny did a great video on taking this knife down. I'm not going to make that video because he did such a good job, and it's a bit complex, and I don't really want to mess it up. So right here in the middle, we've got the pivot system. It runs on a KVT ball bearing system, and that's really nice. We know that it's really smooth. If you watched my unboxing video, you know that it came drop shut smooth straight from the factory. It's still that way. The action has been very consistent and even a little bit better now. And of course, we can't get away from talking about the SLT system. So again, I'll reference Snuggle Bunny's video where he did the takedown of this system. There's a small spring-loaded tab system in here so that the flipper tab hides itself up here. You flip it down, and this part of the this part of the spring-loaded tab comes into contact with the blade, and when you push on it, it functions like a regular flipper, and it throws the knife out there. So, you know, this cocked back position is no different from a regular flipper, except that this one hides when you let it go back. So that's pretty neat, and that's one of Gustavo's sort of contributions to the knife world. His is a little bit slimmer. It's usually just a straight piece of metal, a little bit more subtle than this. This reminds me of a piece on a gun, you know, maybe a little charging hammer or something like that. So it's pretty neat. I do like that. They kept it black, so it's very subtle. And the action is excellent. You can see that it flips really well. You can do it fast. You can do it sort of methodically in 2 stages. However you want to do it, or you can just sit there and do this all day. So that's also kind of fun. Gotta appreciate that. The handles are 5 inches of 6AL4V titanium, milled in a very complex and geometric pattern. Now let's talk about that. A whole lot of people commented on my unboxing video about how ugly this knife is, and I'm just going to tell you, it's an ugly ass knife, and that's true, but you have to understand why people are perceiving it that way. If you look at this thing, there is not a natural looking line on this. It is all straight lines, it is all geometric patterns, and it does not look natural, and it does not look beautiful. A lot of beautiful knives have flowing, organic, rounded lines. You know, maybe you could argue that this is a pretty knife. Maybe you could argue that this is a pretty knife. It's got a lot of curves. It's got more of a natural look to it. This one is all hard edges and angles, which is very unnatural and very man-made. Someone described this as a Klingon knife. It looks almost alien because it has no organic lines on it. And I think once you understand that that is the design here, you begin to see the brilliance that's going on here, and we'll get into that in a minute. but it's got a thicker segment here. It's got these lines that are milled in. It allows for this to be raised up a little bit, which provides some positive traction. When you're holding the knife like this, your fingers actually rest on there. Gotta appreciate that. It's got a little bit of milling here, so you've got some grip. There's no real jimping anywhere on the frame or the blade, so you can see that this is meant as more of a gentleman's carry. The frame has been milled out extensively. These scales have been milled completely. The presentation scale has one big area that's been milled out, and the lock side has a couple of pockets that have been milled out as well, which makes this knife pretty darn light for the size that you're getting here. So at 3.75 inches with a 5-inch handle, we're looking at 4.96 ounces, which is a great weight. Less than 5 ounces is extremely impressive at this size, so I definitely like that. On the lock side, there's a little area that sticks out, and it allows you to disengage the lock easily, and it's very comfortable. That area is not sharp at all. It's very easy to disengage it all day, every day, and it's really nice. It's very well thought out. The tip back here is a bit sharp, I will say. The way that I carry in the waistband sometimes, because I wear scrubs, means that that spike of metal is sticking up and poking me, and it will stick up and out of your pocket. It's very blatant that something is in your pocket, but that's okay. That sort of adds to the overall, design of the knife, that it's artistic and meant to be seen. The backspacer is the last part of the knife I'm going to talk about here, because it's probably my least favorite. It's a floating backspacer, which is cool, but it's done in this blue anodized aluminum. So the only piece of aluminum, it's blue. It's the only piece that is blue on here, and I just don't think it really fits overall. I think it would have been much better in black, and I think it would have been perfectly acceptable in standoff. So not my favorite part of the knife, but it is there, and I guess if you're embracing the rest of the crazy, why not? Speaking of which, let's get into the final diagnosis. My final diagnosis is that this knife is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And that may come as a shock to some people. This knife is a bit silly. It's kind of ridiculous. It's a little bit ugly. It's a little bit in your face and shocking. Like I mentioned, it has no organic lines, and so your initial reaction is to not really appreciate it very much, but you have to think about it with this in mind. This is a custom design from a very high-end maker who makes multi-$1,000 knives. And now they've made this available to the masses at $220. It is a titanium frame lock flipper with high-end steel, a custom sort of unique and uniquely engineered flipper tab system, a very unique look in the market today, and it's offered at an incredible price. That's why I think this knife is brilliant. It's definitely not going to be everyone's choice for EDC. A lot of knives will do a better job than this for EDC, but that is not the point. This is an artistic knife. This is a technological achievement. This is an engineering showcase, and they're offering it at such a competitive price. ZT themselves offers a lot of knives that are less complex than this for more money. Plenty of other companies, including some of the Chinese companies now. Even I talk about the competition coming from China, but We Knives, Riot, or Kaiser doesn't have anything in their lineup that is this awesome at this price point. So I'm extremely impressed that ZT has been able to bring this very unique knife to the market, and so that's why I think it's brilliant. Now, this knife is a blank canvas. I think that we're going to see a lot of folks out there doing some great customizing jobs, and I'm going to get out ahead of the curve here, and I'm going to try to make this my next project knife. So you're going to see this one change a little bit. Something I didn't talk about was the pocket clip. This pocket clip is just about perfect. It's a nice spring clip. It has no branding on it, and I really, really like that. But again, it sticks out of the pocket a little bit, so you have to be aware of that. So speaking of the clip, I'm going to be changing that out. I'm going to be getting a special one from my buddy Adam Purvis, and I'm going to be sending this off to get customized by my buddy Fanatic Edge. So keep an eye out here on the channel for a very special customizing Frunkey job on this Zero Tolerance 0055. What do you guys think of this knife? Is it brilliant, or do you think it's stupid? I hope you understand it from my perspective and why I love this knife so much. I'm going to be keeping this one for a good long while. You're going to see it a lot on my channel. So click like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos. Come back and watch some more. Go over to Instagram and follow me at Dr. Frunkey. And as always, guys, this is Dr. Frunkey saying, take care.